We welcome in a man that suffered previously from weak glutes, but now might have the strongest buns in the business. A contributor to Fantrax, Fighting Chance Fantasy, and Fantasy Data. A senior analyst at Roto Underworld and Fantasy Pros. Wow, this guy does a lot. This teacher is not going to only train your mind, but he's going to whip you like an egg and get your sorry sack into shape. We welcome in the one and only Corbin Young. What's going on, man? Thanks for coming on the show.
What's up, man? Oh, I knew I shouldn't have posted that thing about the glutes. It's just something that popped in my head whatever day that was. I was like, man, squatting today just popped in my head. But anyway, thanks for the intro. I appreciate it.
David, you're not going to mention his great sideburns?
I was going to let you cover that. So why don't you talk about them, Eric?
I mean, they're great. Not many of us could grow it like that. And I think it should be a future profile picture, maybe a side shot to really exemplify the feature.
Just because you guys can't grow facial hair doesn't mean that not many people can grow sideburns.
Hey, Art, I save a lot of money on shaving, okay? Have fun buying razors.
I can grow sideburns, but can't grow too much facial hair.
You fit right in with 2/3 of the show here, so that's all good. But Corb, I want to ask you, man. Obviously, I talked a little bit with you before the show, and we talked that we haven't really had a chance to talk face to face. We are in a lot of common groups together, and we share each other's work. And you do great stuff. And I would just like to get a little bit more about you, honestly, like what you kind of how you got into fantasy baseball, kind of your interests. What just stuff that we don't have to hear Doc and Cheesecake talk as much. So can you tell us a little bit more about yourself and how you got into fantasy?
Yeah, sure. So, like with a lot of people, probably played fantasy football more than fantasy baseball. I played fantasy baseball and, only recently, like more consistently. I'd say it's just more so kind of the friend circle I have is just more football dominant, that it's hard to kind of get them into baseball and those kind of things. And it's just a different setup, right? It's not usually points. It's not usually, it's just a different kind of setup that people aren't used to, or they want the head-to-head matchups, those kind of things. So, and then in terms of like writing and things like that, I've only started like earlier this year, probably in March, and just kind of gradually added a bunch of different things. I love fantasy football and baseball, so it just kind of fits in with what's going on. But and it probably COVID and all those things kind of helped out as well, where in terms of just like you're home a little bit more, got some time to do a little more research, try this whole writing analyst thing out.
No, I like that. And I saw there's a gif of you pitching, so you had some sporting background. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, I mean, I played a ton of just different random sports growing up. Kind of joke with some people, like I wish I had the work ethic that I do now when I was a teenager. When I was younger, it was just kind of like, you showed up to practice, nothing, whatever. I played baseball almost my whole life until high school. And then, just a little bit of random stuff like basketball, golf, bowling, all these just random things. Like, I mean, volleyball is big in Hawaii, but not so much here, those kind of things. Just any sport, really. Outside of racket sports, I'm not really a racket sport person. Give me a tennis racket, I don't really know what I'm doing with it. But, just probably like you guys, it's just fun to be just active and play sports with friends and those kind of things.
A jack of many trades. I like that. And you are big into working out as I am, it sounds like, because we've exchanged some information and just kind of how much we like to get after it in the gym. So I think we're almost like the same person, Corbin. Into fantasy football, fantasy baseball. We like working out. We're teachers. I mean, maybe we're looking in mirrors right now.
Are you guys just going to kiss, or are we going to talk about third baseman?
Well, I'm glad you asked, because luckily we have Corbin here, who is great at talking about third baseman, because on the show tonight, we have Triple Play Fantasy's third base rankings 1.0. So we've talked about a lot of other positions, but now we dive into the third base. And before we head into 2021, we're going to give an early look at this position, talk about guys that we're ranking in different position groups, guys that are ranking in the top 10 that we like, that we don't, same with the top 20, and then guys going outside the top 20 that you could have interest in as a late round flyer. So stay tuned for that. I mean, it sounds like this type of talk, third base, is very interesting because to me, this is not a position that is very deep. It's one of those things that's very top heavy. You have guys in the top 10 that look very good, but it thins out very, very quickly. And a couple of guys at the end that you could take a chance on. But this isn't like other positions we've already covered on the show where there's tons of guys. First base comes to mind where you're just like foaming at the mouth trying to get guys after 20. So this is going to be very important for guys that are trying to draft the third base position and don't get some of the guys in the top 10 to kind of analyze a little bit here. So I won't hold us up any further. Let's dive into this mess of a position and let's talk about third baseman we like inside the top 10. And Corbin, I'm going to start with you. What is a third baseman in the top 10 that you really like at their draft price according to NFBC ADP?
I'd say Yohan Moncada kind of stood out. After testing positive for COVID-19 last year, he kind of explained that he struggled with the effects of COVID and the fatigue and stuff, and that really showed in everything he did. He kind of dominated in 2019 with a 315, 367, 548 slash line, 25 home runs, 10 steals, average exit velocity and fly balls line drives was 25th, right behind Ronald Acuna. And then 2020, just after he came back from COVID, it just, kind of fell off a cliff. So I'm just kind of throwing out 2020, kind of back in on Moncada there with, barely sneaking in the top 10, which is kind of crazy to think about. But
yeah, I mean, Juan Moncada, I think he's the example of someone you almost have to take his 2020 like a piece of paper and just wrinkle it up and just throw it in the garbage, because having COVID and not being able to fully get on track in a shortened season, it's something that I don't think you can use his data and treat it like everybody else's that you're using. When someone has COVID, it hits everybody in different ways. And he's somebody that what he can do when he's healthy. He showed it kind of a resurgence over the last couple of years. So I really like that call, Corbin. I think he has the potential to really outperform where he's getting drafted in NFBC ADP. Doc, I'll go to you next. Who is the guy in the top 10 that you love?
All right. Well, this isn't a surprise to David and Art, but everybody else, I love Nolan Arenado. I've loved him for years. And
get a room.
That's you and Corbin. But he's the fourth third base going off with an average ADP of 34. So before last season, he's played in at least 155 games the last 5 seasons. As Aaron put last week, the best ability is durability. The last 5 years, this is his min stats: 287, 37 homers, 110 RBIs. His max stats: 315, 42 homers, and 133 RBIs. So if he's healthy, you can pencil him in for probably a 290 plus average, 37 to 40 homers, and 115 to 130 RBIs. He has a career walk rate of 10% and a strikeout rate of 15.7, which isn't bad at all. So what happened in 2020? Well, he went to the injured list for the first time since 2014 with AC joint inflammation. That should explain his barrel percentage dropping, his hard hit percentage dropping. I do like to look on the positive, and he had a career low 10% strikeout rate, so I think his eye got a little better. And he's playing in Colorado, so half the games are going to be in the thin air. But if he gets traded, it's likely to a contender with a better lineup around him. I think he's a great baseball player in general, both offensive and defensive, and he's someone I'm looking to target early.
Doc, I'm going to challenge you for a second. Even if he's in a better lineup, if he gets traded, doesn't that kind of balance out with him being in a better hitter's environment in Colorado?
But that's what I'm saying. His value should keep the same if getting traded as opposed to potentially dropping off, because let's say he gets traded to the Yankees, he's going to have more protection around him. That might be more run and RBI opportunities. And even though he's not playing in the thin air in Colorado, he might play in a hitter's ballpark like New York.
So you have him, he's the fourth third baseman going off the board right now?
Yes.
Would you put him any higher, or do you think that's the right spot for him?
Francisco Lindor got traded today, so to think I would take Jose Ramirez over him with no protection in that lineup, I would not do. DJ LeMahieu is not signed. I would take Nolan Arenado probably Number 1 or number 2, maybe Machado. I like Rendon as well, but Arenado, I would say no less than 2 in my eyes.
All right, there you hear it. Cheesecake, what about your guy?
Alex Bregman is going at a huge discount this year. Alex Bregman's going around the 39th to pick off the board. He's the 5th third baseman going off the board. And last season, well, going into 2020, I should say, he was a first-round pick because of the production he has had for the past 2 to 3 seasons. Now, his production did dip in 2020, but I think if you look underneath the numbers, you will see that it is not as big of a dip, as alarming as you would think. Everything was down across the board, actually. Pretty much hard hit percentage, xWOBA down, xBA down, xSlug down, barrel rate down. Like everything was slightly down. But we're talking about a 180 plate appearance sample. Just for kicks, I tried to find if there was a similar sample in 2019 to compare. And if you look from June 7th to July 30th, 2019, his slash line was 224, 381, 442. And in 20, his slash line over 180 plate appearances was 242, 350, 451. So his average and slugging were higher, but his OBP was down a little bit. And that's one thing that's a slightly concerning to me, is that his walk rate dropped a little bit, but it dropped around to where it was in 2018. So I don't think that is too much of a concern. And so you take that sample that I just told you from 2019 and you put it all together and you see what, I thought I was just on his stat page. Anyways, in 2019, he had a great enough season to be merited a first round pick coming into 2020. And he had a sample that was almost exactly the same as the sample he had in 2020. I think that when you look at the small sample, you look at the skills underneath, you can see that he didn't lose any skills. He's 26 years old right now. He'll be 27 in March. He's right in the prime, his prime age group. I think people might be overestimating the Astros cheating scandal. Alex Bregman was the number 2 overall pick. This is not a guy who was not talented and getting by because someone was banging a trash can. I think Alex Bregman at 39 is a great value where he's going, and I'm looking to take him wherever I can.
Yeah, I mean, Alex Bregman, especially in points leagues, doesn't strike out a lot. He's going to consistently give you positive outputs, and he's in a lineup that's maybe a little bit weaker, but it still should be one of the upper half lineups in the league. So I like that call, Cheesecake.
And he's Jewish, so if you let religion play into your rankings and you like Jewish hitters, then he should go up. I
think people always associate with Ryan Braun. That's like the Hebrew Hammer. Everybody always associates.
He disappointed us. We don't allow Ryan Braun into the club.
He didn't say his name right.
I know. I don't like him.
So the guy I'm going to bring up, Rafael Devers, who is not somebody that I was super high on a couple years ago, but I've really started to warm up to him, especially where his value is at right now. He's the 7th third baseman off the board at around pick 44. And there's great value here. Last year, just his stats, 263, 11 homers and 43 RBIs and just under 250 at-bats. Had skill regression this year so that, I'm not going to dismiss that completely. His contact rate was down, chased more outside the zone, and he's been a statistically slow starter the last couple years. So maybe if this played out into a full, normal, longer season, you might have seen him correct some of his struggles that he had early on. He's only 24 years old, and he hits the ball extremely hard. He had the highest exit velocity of his career last year, and it's been elite the last 2 seasons. Last season, he barreled the ball twice the rate of the average big league hitter, as well at 12%. So basically, the average big league hitter barrels the ball up about 6% of the time, and he basically was doing it at 12% of the time. So he was barreling the ball twice as much, which is insane. It's also a career high. I brought up that he chased more outside the zone, and his chase contact went down nearly 8%, which is a big reason why his K percentage went up 10% to a career high 27%. But looking at that again, he upped his line drive rate, and his weak contact actually went down. And listen to his weak contact. His weak contact went down to 0.6%. This guy does not hit the ball unless it's hard. And that's going to play well as he's upping his line drive rate. And when you have someone that young hitting the ball like he does, upping that line drive rate, sign me up. He also has 16 career steals, so hopefully you might be able to get a couple stolen bases just for fun in there as well. But I think you're benefiting from his slow start last year that I think would have brought up his draft value if he'd played out the full season. So at third baseman 7 at pick 44, I'm very happy drafting him in the top 10 here, and I think he's a steal going at this point in the draft. Let's move from the ones we love, and let's go to the flip side, and let's talk about the ones we don't like so much based on their ADP. Doc, I'll start with you for this round. Who is someone you don't like in the top 10 because of their ADP?
Yeah, you're handing me the baton like we did last week with Trey Turner, and I'm going to pick up, and I don't like Rafael Devers for his ADP of 44.5. So I know that he had a great 2019 and that 2020 was a little short, and that he's had a relatively short and young career. But I look at the outlier. His batting average in 2019 was 311. His closest since then is 284. He had 32 homers. The next closest he had is 21. Obviously, we didn't play a full season. He had 54 doubles in 2019. I don't see him having 86 home runs and doubles in a full season, as 24 is the next. He had a 17% strikeout rate that season, and his lowest since then is 23.8, and that's including 2020. So what happened? He's a very streaky guy, as David had mentioned. His first 18 games, he hit 162, which was 31.6 of the season. Then he got hot over his next 6 games and hit 392, which was 10.5% of the season. He had a similar stretch in September where he was torrid hot, and he hit 500 over a 7-game stretch, which was 12.2% of the season. But he ended cold. His final 9 games, he hit 119, which was 15.8. So for about half the season, he was hitting in the 140, 150 range. I like a little bit more consistency. I know Art owned Devers in a couple leagues last year and was really contemplating trying to trade him the first month of the season. And I look at the lineup he has: Alex Verdugo, Xander Bogaerts, Devers, JD Martinez. I think it's a good 1 through 4. After that, it's Christian Vasquez, Andrew Benintendi, the guy that's never screwed anyone over. And just to touch on the swing, he had the 7th highest O swing percentage at 43.3% and the 6th highest swing percentage. So shout out to Sleepy K Mike Curlin for taking David down.
I was going to say, those are not things you pulled up.
No. Mike Curlin put him on Twitter the other day, and I was like, okay, perfect. I'm using research. I'm going to give you the credit now. I'm going to give you the podcast credit. And then when you told me you're doing Devers, I was like, oh, perfect. I can take David down. David's not going to argue with Curlin.
I will argue with Curlin because I do think he's a value. I think, again, when you have a hitter that young hits the ball that hard, and he's someone that shows he's always a slow starter, there's other players like that. Goldschmidt comes to mind as well, that I'm not worried at all. And with this big of a discount, I'm all in. So I guess we'll know who I'll be drafting and who you won't be drafting. Makes it fun.
Maybe this is a smoke screen, and I take Devers just to spite you.
Oh, that would be awful. Cheesecake, let's go to you. Who's someone that you do not like in the top 10?
Well, I hate to disagree with our honored guest Corbin, but I am going to go in on a little detail on why I'm not taking Yohan Moncada at his draft position currently. I believe 86. 87, I think. I looked at his career stats, and I'm going to start out here going, there's going to be a theme going on, and it's that old song, One of These Things is Not Like the Other. XBA 225, 216, 285, 208. K percentage 32.0, 33.4, 27.5, 31.2. Barrel rate 9.6, 9.6, 12.2, 6.2. Sweet spots percentage 33.6, 36.4, 40.4, 33.8. The high numbers were 2019. The low numbers were 17, 18, and 20. Now, Yohan Moncada will be 26 years old the end of May this year. There's certainly room for growth there. There's certainly room to say that 20 was something you can sweep under the rug. And I I think that narrative makes a lot of sense to me. The only thing that holds me back is the down years are so down. His floor is so low. If you take out his 2019, his per 600 plate appearance average is 231 batting average, 26 doubles, 6 triples, and 16 home runs with 72 runs and 57 RBIs over 600 plate appearances. With his 199 strikeouts per 600 plate appearance averages outside of 2019, in a points league, he averages 1.5 points per game. That is waiver wire fodder. And in Roto, he's not carrying you with counting stats. He's not carrying you with batting average, and he's not really bringing speed, even though he has the speed. So I think 2019 is his best year so far. I think that is as good as he can do, and he'll probably get there again. I'm not going to take the chance on him in the top 100 to that he might end up being 2017, 18, or 20 again. So Yoan Moncada is a guy I'm avoiding in the top 10.
So to fight for my guy Corbin really quick,
Of course.
Are you not thinking that there's a chance that his skills could be progressing, and that you saw the numbers get better up to 2019 of his career year, and the only sample we have after his career year is 2020, where he had COVID and it looked like it affected him majorly, where that his skills could have been progressing, but the data last year it should be again thrown away, and this is not a guy that's kind of ascending?
I think that the data from last year was worse than it would have been otherwise because of the COVID. I think you can bump him up to his at least somewhere around or above his 2018 levels, but to bump him up to 2019 levels where he had a 406 BABIP, I think you take what his career BABIP is, which is around 330, 340, and you, includes that 406 in there, and you take that and you say, all right, that might be what I can expect, because that's the bigger sample size. 19 is one season, and it hasn't shown in other seasons that he does that. It's the strikeout rate went down. The walk rate went down in 19 as well, and the walk rate went back up. His walk rate in his poorer seasons has been higher than it was in his best season. So it's an interesting profile you have with Moncada. I think that it's highly possible that he was COVID affected, but when you look at how comparable his 2020 was to 2018 and 2017, you almost want to say the outlier is the really good season. And I don't want to get caught in the top 100 with a guy who's going to give me 130 runs plus RBIs.
I mean, that's fair. I didn't dig into his profile too much. I'm looking at it now, but some things that kind of intrigue me looking at it right now, he did not swing a lot last year. His first pitch swing percentage was down almost 9%. His zone swing was down 4%. And his zone contact actually was up. And his chase rate was actually down too.
The swing percentage thing is something you saw across the league too.
That's true.
Yeah, it's something you saw across the league. Everyone's swing percentage was down. K rates were up. I think that has a lot to do with the shortened season and perhaps some COVID. And I don't know how to factor that in. I've been looking at the stats and I can't come to any solid conclusions right now. But that was something that is common across a lot of hitters who had down seasons. Their swing percentage went down.
But I do also look at things like barrels. And in 2017 and 2018, he had 9.6 barrel percentages, career high, like you said, 12, but then it went down to 6. So the fact that he hadn't had anything below 9.6 in his first 3 years to have such an outlier of it being that low, I'm not saying that there's not risk involved, but I do think that it was a putrid year, and I think there was outside factors in there. But I can understand not wanting to take the gamble.
No, yeah, and I think I'm in the minority on this call. Actually, I think Casey Bubba would tell me I was dumb too.
David, you know what I like? Yoan Moncada wasn't your guy that you liked, and you're defending.
I don't even know how. This is probably the most we've ever talked about a player.
You have a man crush on Corbin to defend him. I need you to stop it.
No, yeah, and I understand that. There's a guy later that I like that's going outside the top 10 that I'll talk about that I think I would probably wait to take. If I miss on Moncada, but I see what you're saying. Like that, definitely. I think after I dig a little deeper, like that BABIP in 2019 is a little insane. What was it, like over 400 or something? I think I understand the concerns. I just figured it's one of those guys where like, it's one of those things where like, it floats around Twitter. It's like, what are we doing with the 2020 season? And it's like guys like this that had COVID or, just really struggling out of the norm. Like I'm willing to give them a little bit of a pass, maybe not like all in, but just a little more leeway, I guess.
Corbin, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Cheesecake.
No, you go ahead. I
was going to say, Corbin, I want to stick with you, and I want you to get negative for me of somebody that you don't like in the top 10, and go ahead and trash them.
This is a guy, it pains me to say this. I love Kevin Biggio, but I was pretty amazed to see that he's going like top 60. Like, it's a little high for me. I love him, but he's got that power speed profile. I love the on-base skills. Sometimes he's a little too patient, but it's hard to take a guy that, he's had a high of like 250, 234 batting average his past 2 seasons. OBP leagues, points leagues, you can buy into Biggio. He hits a ton of line drives, which I love, but interestingly, he got caught stealing quite a bit in the minors. He was like 11 for 18 and 20 for 28. But then, past couple of years, he was 20 for 20. So, I don't know if he's just being smarter on the base pass or something like that, or maybe me in the minors, it just, maybe matters a little bit less to them. But it just feels a little too early to draft a guy that maybe, has like a 250-ish batting average, maybe a peak projection of like 20 home runs, 15 steals. Like that's not a guy that I get excited about right there in the top 10. And he's going like, within the top 60 picks or so. So,
Doc, I'm going to stick with my Corbin love because he picked the player that I had as well. So sorry to keep the narrative going strong here.
Goo goo gaga.
He's going 15 picks after Devers and 28 picks before Suarez and Moncada, which I don't understand at all, honestly. He doesn't have very much his lack of batting average, and he has some power, but not great power upside. He does have the position eligibility, which I think is a big boost for him at this spot. And he can get on base at a pretty good clip, but that's about it in his profile that stands out to me. He hit 250 last year, but his expected batting average was closer to 215. The barrel rate declined and his exit velocity declined. And I heard Toby mention this on Bubba on the bat flip, that his maximum exit velocity in 2 seasons is 104.6, which is not very good at all for a major league hitter to have that as their highest ball as their max exit velocity. We know Alex Chamberlain came out with the max exit velocity article, basically talking about how that measures underlying potential. And Eric, you remember when we were in the backyard and I used to call you Barry Bonds when you used to take a bazillion pitches?
Yeah, I was patient.
No, you just were annoying because you didn't play the game. But he's the new. You were an early Kevin Biggio, Eric.
I was an on-base machine, is what you're saying.
No, you literally just walked. And
that's on-base machine.
No, you didn't swing. You had lack of home run power, and he basically has an elite walk percentage. But everything else in his profile is blue. He's a Mr. Freeze pretty much otherwise. And again, he doesn't hit the ball hard, and his hard hit percentages are horrible. And this early in the draft, I don't like this price for him, even with his position flexibility. And I know he's at the top of the Blue Jays lineup, but this isn't somebody who I think is going to produce what you think he's going to at this point in the draft. He doesn't swing the bat a ton. He has under league average swing percentages and pulls the ball actually 50%, almost 50% of the time the ball is in play. Easy to put a shift on against him as well. He's someone that relies heavily on pulling the ball, which again, that catches up to you pretty quickly. And if it hasn't already caught up to him with a 215 expected batting average, I'm off of this guy. No thanks. I will take many other Blue Jays hitters, but this is not someone I'm looking at. Let's move to the next tier of players, and that's the 11 to 20 range. And Cheesecake, I'm going to start with you, and let's talk positive again. Who's someone in the 11 to 20 range that you really like here? Well,
Josh Donaldson is going at pick 190 since October 1st. And then I looked to see if you sorted by since December 1st, if he was creeping up draft boards. He's going pick 189 since December 1st. So he is not creeping up draft boards at all. And Josh Donaldson is coming off of a right calf strain, which cost him almost the entire season. He left a game July 31st with right calf tightness, came back September 2nd, and left a game September 29th with right calf cramp, and he couldn't play in the playoffs. He missed 38 games in 2017 with a right calf strain. So I know the picture I'm painting for you right now is not that great. This is Josh Donaldson's 35 years old. He has consistent right calf strain issues. In 2018, the season after his last right calf strain, he missed almost the entire season. It was called an abject disaster with shoulder injury. But the other thing that I wanted to point out is pick 190. That is in the 13th round in a 15-team draft and in the 16th round in a 12-team draft. And Josh Donaldson in 2019 had 659 plate appearances of a 259, 379, 521 slash line. Minnesota is a very good offense. They're going to put Josh Donaldson right in the middle of that. His profile is a guy who takes walks, hits the ball hard. He is the bringer of rain. At that point, he's probably your 8th hitter. In a 12 team, he might be your 10th hitter that you're taking. So you're not expecting him to carry your offense. And the upside of Josh Donaldson is huge. That is a mini Bregman type profile, like a little bit worse batting average, but the power, the walks, they're all there. He strikes out a little bit more. So at pick 190, you're getting a currently 150 pick discount. And you have some, you don't discount. It's said enough on many pods. Don't discount a player, someone who is already being discounted. He's being discounted for the injury. If he wasn't coming off of a somewhat injury-plagued season, he wouldn't be going at pick 190. He'd be going 50, 60, maybe 100 picks sooner, as he did last season. So right now at that price range, pick 190, I think that the cost to get Josh Donaldson on your team is perfect. I think that waiting and grabbing Donaldson is a really nice move for your third base position.
Yeah, Donaldson, I feel like a lot of times when he comes off injured seasons, again, like you said, he gets that price discount and everybody forgets about him, and then he tears it up. He was forgotten about, then tore it up with Atlanta. His price went up, didn't quite perform as much last year with the injuries, so now his price is back down again, and you can expect hopefully that boom from him, especially in a lineup like Minnesota. So I like that call there. Corbin, let's go to you next. And I'm wondering if we're going to have the same guy again, because we've been on the same page a lot this night. Who do you have as your riser in this 11 through 20?
I almost went Donaldson too. I was like, when I saw that, I was like, man, he's almost at pick 200. I'm like, I don't know what it was last year, but it was kind of crazy to see him that far down. This is a guy dude I love, Matt Chapman. So even with the injury concerns, I think I'm in on Matt Chapman here. Dude crushed the ball. I understand fading him with the injuries. I think when I looked at the recent report, looked like he should be ready for spring training. I think his batting average and stuff was terrible last year, but he was just like elite in every hard hit metric last year. Just a guy that I think he's a guy that I was talking about earlier that I think I would probably wait for and take over a guy like Moncada. Should hit about 255, 260, 30 plus home runs, 90 plus runs, RBIs each. And over the past 2 seasons, even in, with missing part of last season, he's really been one of the better hitters. He's got a 351 WOBA, number 54, tied with Manny Machado, who's going the second third baseman there. He's got 46 home runs, 124 runs, 116 RBI. All of those are top 40, in all those categories there. And he's got that elite defense, so he's never going to leave that lineup. Just a guy that I love. That another guy, I think there's just people are fading because of the injury. And normally I probably have him more in that like top 10 range.
Yeah, I think Chapman, if the injury doesn't happen, he's definitely a lot higher. It's a great call. I think he's somebody you're going to be shocked that when he falls into your lap where he is right now. And you're going to be really satisfied with that as your third baseman. So I like that call, Corbin, as well. Doc, let's go to you next. Who do you got?
I loved Matt Chapman last year, and he broke my heart with his injuries and inconsistency. There's nothing more than I wanted him than to do well. But for me, I'm going Chris Bryant, and he's the 17th third base off the board with an ADP of 136.5. Min pick 88, max 189, so a lot of variance. I'm looking prior to his 2020 season. He's had 25-plus home runs in 4 out of the 5 years. His batting average has never been lower than 270, and his on-base percentage has never been lower than 369. He gets you about 4 to 8 stolen bases a year. He's never going to see the upside that he had when he got 13 his rookie year. So 2020, his walk rate went down from 11.7 to 8.2%. K rate went up from 22.9 to 27.2%. But he had a 30.6% K rate his rookie year. So although that number is alarming, he can still put up good numbers. And his barrel percentage went down to 8.8 to 5.5%. Hard hit percentage went down as well. I'm putting that on a lot of injuries. He had back issues in summer camp. He sprained his left wrist and ring finger in August diving for a ball. He strained his right oblique in September, and he had left elbow soreness. He's only 29 years old. I think a lot of people think Chris Bryant is an older player just because he's had such a drop-off from his rookie season. But he's also in a contract year, and he has Scott Boras as his agent. I think he's probably resting up this offseason, wanting to get healthy, wanting to take it light in rehab so that he can cash in for that big payday and Boras can get that big commission. As David, you are just looking so ugly right now in the background.
That's not even good analysis. That means your points are done and not to listen to you anymore.
Gosh, I just wish the listeners could see how unattractive you looked for that last 20 seconds.
Okay. So I'm going to ignore you and be the bigger man and get to my guy here. And that's Brian Hayes, who, Eric, you talked about Zoom, right? And how fast their stock rises.
It's down now.
Well, it was fasting. It was rising just like Zoom stock, apparently. So
the new one is Tesla. He's rising like Tesla stock.
There you go. Rising like Tesla stock. He was a 260 hitter in the minors. So that 376 batting average last year obviously is not going to be a real thing in a full season. And he probably is going to hit closer to what Steamer has him at 284. His BABIP was over 400. So again, that will definitely take his batting average down. But he did have a 300 XBA. So that is something I'm positive looking at, that even with all that BABIP, it was still a 300 XBA. And he had a below average strikeout rate at 21.1%, excuse me. He had an above average walk rate at over 9%. He had an unreal 55.4% hard hit rate, which is just, again, unbelievable. 5 homers, 11 RBIs, and 1 steal in 2020. But he did have 12 stolen bases in AAA in 2019. So you know that potential to steal double-digit bags are there for him. He's a potential 5-category player, and he's just 23 years old. I don't know what you guys were doing at 23 years old, but this guy is just destroying pitching right now. Now, he's got to get that 7-degree launch angle a little bit under control. That's something that if he wants to hit more homers and more fly balls, he's going to have to get up. And you can see that with his 47% ground ball rate. So again, something you got to do, you got to get the ball in the air more if you want to get more extra base hits. He does have a above league average line drive rate, and his zone swing percentage, chase percentages, and chase contact percentages were all right around league averages. But the thing that kind of stuck out to me was his zone contact was 93.7%. I'll say that again. Anytime a ball was in the zone and he swung, he made contact with it 93.7% of the time. That is just unreal type of contact that he was making. I've heard people talk about his plate coverage skills, and it's otherworldly, and he definitely showed that this year. He also added a 306 ISO and a 195 WRC plus, but Steamer still has him for a 181 and 113, which is still very solid. I like him here as long as his value doesn't keep shooting up, and it's already shot up a bunch this offseason, but he's still right now the 16th third baseman off the board, and you know he's going to get every day at bats in Pittsburgh. So this is someone I'm very high on. not unique in that way, but he should be someone that I think is going to keep creeping up there, and his profile is just unreal. So I like Brian Hayes a lot. Let's go to the last person we're going to talk about. Oh, no. Second to last person. We're not going to cheat you guys. We got another guy. So let's go to our second to last person we'll talk about, and that's the person we're fading in the 11 to 20 range. And Corbin, I'm going to go right back to you. Who is somebody in the 11 to 20 range that you're, I'm okay missing on him?
Fortunately, we got to disagree here. I had Brian Hayes as a guy I'm fading. It might sound contradictory here. He's a glove first dude like Matt Chapman, but I think I'm warming up to him, but I just can't buy into this right here at this ADP. Just too much of a small sample. That's definitely going to even out. And not to say he's not going to be like a productive third baseman, but I don't know. He had a 450 BABIP, and when you look at guys like that, that's going to even out. There's no possible way, even when I look at just like what he had in the minors, that's just not normal, And so, but he's a solid guy. I just think he just outperformed and overperformed in that small sample. And I'm not gonna be all in and trying to grab a guy like that. And the Pirates offense as a whole is just awful. I like a guy, it's not the same profile, but a guy that pops into mind that I was all in on last year was Brian Reynolds, and just total flop. And, there's reasons for that, but I don't want to put too much stock in a Pirates hitter, at least in this range. I'll take a shot a little later. I do see that he hit the ball pretty hard. What I warmed up to is Prospect Live put out their Pirates top prospects list, and maybe want to dig a little deeper. It made me warm up to him. I think like you said, he's a better hitter than people realize. So maybe this is a good spot here. I don't know. I just have some, not sure I'm ready to buy into this. Need a little more data.
That's fair. No, that's fair.
David and Corbin disagreeing. I never thought I'd see the day. Raise the roof.
I'm punching you if you can't tell.
Oh,
Corbin's point about the Pirates offense is 100% right on. They were degrees worse. I think they were the worst offense in all of baseball in 2020. It's really sad for those Pittsburgh fans we know.
Oh yeah, I play a lot of DFS, and they were an offense you would always pick pitchers going against them almost daily. So I definitely get that. And I'm glad that we have some disagreements here. It's not good if we all agree on the same type of players here. It creates good controversy. So I like that. Doc, speaking of controversy, we never agree on things. Who's someone that you don't like here?
all right. Well,
besides me not liking you.
Well, the feeling's mutual, brother. You talk about stocks. This guy is Zoom for us because we hyped him up so much last year. He hit his peak value and he's coming down in my eyes. And that's the one and only Jeff McNeil. So you look at his 2020, he hit 311 with 4 homers and 23 RBIs. No stolen bases, so no upside from that, even though he's had 5 to 7 in his previous years. His 4 home runs he hit in 4 straight games. He didn't hit any in his first 34, but games 35 through 38, he homered once each, and then not the rest of the season. I look and his 2018, he only had 3 homers in 63 games. So I think that 23 he hit in 2019 is an anomaly. He is good in batting average. He's going to hit over 300 each year. He's going to have an on-base percentage in the 380s. He's not going to do much else. No power or minimal power, no steals, no recognition to the triple play fantasy. And if you want his attention, he will only do it if you pay for a cameo.
That is true. If you listen back in the early days, you used to shout Jeff McNeil out on every single show and got nothing back from him. So I can understand turning your back to him. I'm all for it. Cheesecake, let's go to you next. Who's your guy?
I just remember us having a conversation. Should we stop shouting out Jeff McNeil now? Should we stop saying that? And I think it was like, you know what? I think it's time. I think Jeff McNeil is not going to warm up to us, and you know, part of me does fault Jeff McNeil for that, Doc. I got to give you props. I mean, I know you're fading him for other reasons, but for that, part of me is like, you know what? Yeah.
Maybe he would have had more power had he acknowledged triple play. It's not a conclusion that we can come up with yet.
I mean, he would have felt better about life. He would have been more positive. He would have felt more love. I mean, we
speaking from my soul.
We bring all this. Another guy who there's a lot of love for on this podcast, who I definitely have to fade this year, is Max Muncy, and it's something that hurts me deep. But I think when you look at Max Muncy, you have to look at the draft position and the place where he's going. He's going right now in the 97th pick. He's the 12th third baseman off the board. He's going ahead of Alec Boehm. He's going ahead of Matt Chapman. He's going ahead of Chris Bryant, and he also plays other positions. He's going right around the same time that Anthony Rizzo's going, Paul Goldschmidt at his other position, second base. I mean, you might draft him to play second base because he has fantastic power for a second baseman. But I do want to talk about that power a little bit. But first of all, I wanted to talk about the fact that we did not know that the batting average floor for Max Muncy would drop out so far. Now, it was a very small sample size, hitting 192 in 2020. But even as a small sample size go, the batting average floor, he had been a 260, 270 hitter prior, 250, 260 hitter in 19 and 18. Dropping to 192 is an enormous drop, even over that short period. I think he would have definitely brought it back up, but across a whole season, having a large sample like that hitting 192, it really is going to hurt you over the course of a whole season. And now I'm going to talk about what is his actual carrying stat, which is his power. You are hoping for league average batting average, but you are banking on the walks, which he still provides, and you're banking on the power. Now, digging down a little deep in the numbers, you start to see that pitchers are not pitching Max Muncy the same way they used to pitch him. I did steal a David line there, digging down into the numbers. I think that David just smiled at me right now. Pitchers are not pitching Max Muncy the same way that they used to pitch him. In 2018, they threw him 60% fastballs. In 2019, they threw him 56% fastballs. In 2020, that was down to 49% fastballs. Now, why is this important? Because Max Muncy's power comes from fastballs. In 2018 and 2019, 49 out of his 70 home runs came on fastballs. In 2020, 11 out of his 12 home runs came on fastballs. I think that there might be starting to be a book on Muncy where throw him less fastballs, throw him the breaking stuff. His carrying stat might be injured by the fact that he's not really good at turning breaking pitches and off-speed pitches into power like a lot of other people is. He's really a fastball power hitter. So I think that now if you're drafted in an OBP league or if you're drafted in a points league, his walks are fantastic, and they are going to help prop up his value. But in a 5x5 traditional roto league, I think you're going to see a little bit of a power drop off as they've started to really limit the fastballs he sees, and that is really where he gets his power from. And again, the main point that I have is that I don't dislike Muncy. I wish that you were getting a bigger discount from his offseason, but Dodger tax and that walk rate is going to keep him up a little bit, and I'm just going to have to fade him.
Which is weird hearing you say that because Carlos Santana and Max Muncy are two cheesecake staples of your team. So, your team name last year was Muncy High School D-Gens or something like that.
No, that was me.
Oh, that was you? Okay. But yeah, no, I agree. It's definitely... you look in his profile, it's definitely, there's looking like some regression there and some stuff that you were saying. So I don't disagree with that at all. I'm going to just touch on my guy here so we can keep this moving. And that's Gio Urshela. And the reason I'm saying just touch on it is you actually look at his profile. His profile is great. Bottom 10 K percentage at 14%, had a 10% walk rate, both going in the right directions as his strikeout rate's gone down, his walk rate's gone up. Good exit velocity, barrels the ball at an acceptable clip. He's a solid hitter all around, but the reason I'm fading him specifically is it's not a him problem. This is an organization problem. He's having surgery and is out for the next 3 months, which it's funny how it took that long for them to announce that and for that to happen. And they diagnosed it as a bone chip in his elbow. And it might sound like it's something that's small, but with this organization, we've learned that they've misdiagnosed things, and a lot of these things are not small. And I think they were late to the party. Anybody on the Yankees that's going into the season already having an injury and surgery makes me extremely nervous to draft them. And I took Gio Urshela. I waited on third base in my first best ball league, and he was my first third baseman I took, and I felt horrible about it because I don't think I can count on him for consistent at-bats this year, and I'll be happy to be wrong about that, but I really think he's not going to be someone that's going to be consistently in the lineup this year. I don't see this going a good way for him. I see injuries and that elbow just kind of hankering him down, a lot of stints on the IL, and that is why I'm completely out on Gio Urshela, nothing to do with his actual performance.
David, I agree with you for once, so the listeners need to know that the brothers actually agree.
Fair enough. Just took 50 minutes into the show, or 50 minutes into this part of the recording of the show.
Took 26 minutes or 26 years of my life.
There we go. Let's go to the last part here, and that's going to be your flyer, your wild card, the person you're going to stamp your name with going outside the top 20, someone you're really high on. And we're going to round this out here. Corbin, I'm going right back to you, buddy. Who's someone outside the top 20 that you would like to stamp the Corbin name to?
There are a few guys I wrote down here. If I'm going for power, I'm definitely looking at like JD Davis, Austin Riley. I probably, as much as I love JD Davis and that raw power, and just lights up, I might be more into Austin Riley. He made some improvements slightly towards the end of last year. And I think, again, just a small snippet, but I think the lineup context I like a little better in the job security. Although, maybe with that Lindor trade, maybe that changes the Mets lineup a little. Maybe JD Davis gets more line for playing time, but I think they're kind of similar guys, right? They're probably going to hit like 250, 260. We know they have that raw power. I think Riley probably strikes out a little more than I'd like him to, but he made some changes toward the end of 2020 that may be kind of hopeful. And so, they're both kind of in that 250, 260 range. They're probably going to give you about 25, maybe 30 home runs over a full season. So I kind of like those guys for power. If I'm looking for like speed, and this guy's kind of boring, and I wish he had catcher eligibility, but Isaiah Kiner-Falefa is another guy, like if you need some steals. But kind of back to the Pirates note, like I don't know how I feel about the Rangers lineup. But with that ATP close to like pick 300, like if I needed some double-digit steals and a guy that's not going to totally hurt me in batting average, I'm pretty sure he's going to hit, like I think he was hitting like second, and he's probably going to hit at the top of the lineup, get some runs. I might be into Kiner-Falefa a little later if I needed some steals, but if I'm looking for power, I'm definitely going for a JD Davis or Austin Riley in this range.
Yeah, I like those and I like how you broke it down as well. That you're talking about power, speed, whatever you need here. Those guys available for you. And JD Davis was everybody's darling going into last year. Everybody was talking about him as kind of a sleeper, and he didn't perform to expectations. And now his values dipped a little bit, but he's going to be in a much better lineup, getting that consistent playing time, hopefully. So I like that call, hopefully, especially if there's a DH, which I expect that there hopefully will be. But great calls there, Corbin. I like that. Doc, let's go to you. Who's the last guy that you're going to mention here?
So I mentioned Kyle Seager last year. He's the 30th third baseman with an ADP of 265. From 2012 to 2019, he played in 154 plus games in 7 out of those 8 seasons. The one season he didn't in 2019, he played 106 games. But if he had gone for that pace, he would have hit 34 home runs. But even so, he's hit 20-plus home runs every year since then. So you can lock him in for that source of power. 2020, he played all 60 games. He hit 241, which was his highest average since 2017. Walk percentage went up from 9.9 to 12.9%, which is a career high. K rate went down from 19.4 to 13.3%, which is a career low for him. Career barrel percentage 7.1% to 10.2%, which was a career high. He's making $18 million a year, so he's going to play. And I actually like the Mariners lineup this year better than I did last year. They have J.P. Crawford projected at 1, Dylan Moore at 2, Kyle Lewis at 3, Kyle Seager at 4, Mitch Haniger at 5, who wasn't healthy last year. I like Ty France and Evan White in there. So I think Kyle Seager, once again, not a sexy name for a not sexy team, but a solid contributor you can get late.
Yeah, Kyle Seager will give you a lot of good counting stats, and he's somebody that's, again, maybe he's not someone you're excited about, but someone that will fill a lot of holes and allow you to draft other positions earlier on. So don't disagree with that one. Cheesecake, who's your last guy, and maybe keep it in 2 minutes or less this time?
Ooh, shots fired.
Absolutely. I can be super quick about this.
Just kidding.
311, the board. No, I don't really have much to say. There's not a lot of analysis going on here. The 32nd third baseman, 311th pick off the board is Eduardo Escobar, who had a really down 2020. But in 2018, he had 74 extra base hits. 2019, he had 74 extra base hits. He had an 824 OPS in 2018, 831 in 2019, and a 605 in 2020. He's going to be hitting 5th in the Diamondbacks order, according to Roster Resource. I think that Eduardo Escobar is a guy who bounces back, and his price right now is incredibly depressed based upon his 2020. So I think Eduardo is a guy who I'm going to be in on.
Eduardo Escobar, I believe, had 100 and something RBIs 2 years ago. What was it? Do you remember?
120, 122 or something like that.
Yeah, I mean,
if I remember correctly. I'd have to look it up. He had an insane amount of eyes. He's a switch hitter. I mean, he's hitting 5th in a lineup that looks, has some pop to it, has some force behind it. So I think he's going to be giving you those stats, especially with the extra base hits he usually gets.
Like that. The guy that I'm going to talk about is someone that Cheesecake and I both actually almost took it together before the show, and I had to tell him back off. This was mine. And that is Edwin Rios. He hit 233 versus right-handed pitching and 313 versus lefties. He walked below 5% of the time. So that's the little bit of negatives about him. So he needs to improve against right-handed pitching, and he needs to improve his walking. But he did this past season, his numbers with a 216 BABIP. And I would expect that to basically normalize to more what it's been to his career. He had a 250 batting average with that 216 BABIP. So that brought his expected batting average to 285. And he's someone that's batted pretty decently with his batting average in the minor league. So I think his batting average actually will go up next year. He's had at least a 105 WRC plus in every year of the minor leagues, at one point as high as 188. In his 2 years with the Dodgers, he had WRC pluses of 161 and 145. So keep that in mind. Those are his 2 years with the Dodgers. Those are his 2 WRC pluses. For those that don't know, those are your weighted runs created plus, which is really good to see for a player's value when he's in the lineup. That is with a 340 and 395 ISO as well. He cut his strikeouts tremendously in 2020 at a 16% cut. So he cut 16% off his strikeout rate from 2019 to 2020, which is one of the biggest decreases in all of the major leagues. He also jumped his launch angle from 5.4 degrees to 14.5 degrees, and he hits the ball hard at way above the major league average. He's become a lot more aggressive at the plate this year, upping his swing percentages all across the board while cutting his ground ball rate 14%. A lot to love in this profile. The big if will be is if he gets the playing time. He's one of those guys that I think if he gets the consistent playing time, he's going to be a steal here. He's in the Dodgers lineup that's heavily misspeaking. He's in a Dodgers lineup that has a lot of good bats, is what I'm trying to say. And that's going to be his struggle again, getting in the lineup. So if he gets in, if someone gets hurt, I mean, right now, Justin Turner's not signed. So the third baseman job could be his if they don't bring him back. But this is somebody that if he's in there consistently day after day, even if he's hitting the 8th spot in the order, someone I really like at this spot. Cheesecake, I'm assuming you agree since we fought over him before the show.
Yeah, I he's, guy like him is another reason why maybe Muncy might get a little bit less plate appearances this year. They're going to try and find a way to work him in. I totally think so, especially, even if it's just as a short side platoon. but he's, at that draft price, you're taking him. He's your second, third baseman, maybe your third baseman in a draft. You could do a lot worse, especially if he does start to get a little bit better run, a little bit better against lefties. I think that discount is great on him.
Agreed. It's a good spot to end on Edwin Rios. It's a great discussion, gentlemen. Let's move to our next segment, and that's our question of the week. And we are sponsored by Shady Rays. Take it away, Cheesecake.
Was that from The Mandalorian? That reminded me of The Mandalorian. I just got finished.
It's from the game Among Us.
Okay. Well, longtime listeners of Triple Play, all of our family of podcasts will know all about Shady Rays already. You want to look good. You want to have polarized lenses so you can see things better. You need to get yourself some Shady Rays. Shady Rays are the best looking sunglasses I have ever owned. I got contacts just so I can get sunglasses, and I got Shady Rays, and I'm so happy with that. I wear them whenever I'm driving in the daytime. I wear them when I'm going out hiking. I wear them when I go for a walk. They're comfortable. They're light. They're stylish. I love them. Now, when you come to Triple Play, you get something though. You don't just get a great show, but we give you something else. We give you 25% off your order of shades from Shady Rays, everything except for the prescription collection. Now, what else is going on with that? Shady Rays is a great company. They're donating 10 meals to Feeding America for every pair of Shady Rays that they sell. They've donated over 13 million meals to date. Thank goodness, all these people hurting in this country. Shady Rays is a company that's going out and standing up for regular people who are in need. And their policy of guaranteed replacements, whether they are lost, broken, scratched, or anything, is something that you don't get in other companies. I am so happy to have my Shady Rays. I know I'm going to have them for as long as I want, and which is going to be forever, because if I get them scratched, I'm going to go get another pair. I'm going to get them replaced. Go out, use the code TRIPLEPLAY, TRIPLEPLAY, one word, and get yourself 25% off a pair of Shady Rays on us.
Wow. Cheesecake, you sold me, and I already have 2 pairs. So that is.
Shut up and take my money.
You're the meme. But our question, sponsored by Shady Rays, is: what is your fantasy baseball New Year's resolution? So with drafts around the corner, or maybe you're already drafting, what is something you're going to be resoluting to in this new year, 2021? Corbin, you're the guest, so I will come to you first. What is your fantasy baseball New Year's resolution?
Mine's pretty boring. I think just like starting earlier, we already are, just starting earlier in my analysis instead of waiting till February, March and be like, oh, let's start looking at the people now. And just kind of continue to improve, I think, we have a pretty good idea. There's so much free data out there for baseball, and some of it's just like understanding what some of it means. Like sometimes I feel like I'm looking at Alex Chamberlain's leaderboard and I'm like trying to figure out what I'm looking at, and so I think just improving in my analysis and some of those kind of deeper, more analytical stuff, and just be more confident. I think in my analysis, I'm kind of joke that I'm big on the lukewarm takes. I'm big on like the here's the pros and cons, because I don't ever want to be totally in on a guy and then just not looking at something I'm missing kind of thing. But so I think just being more confident in my analysis and not having these lukewarm takes.
I like that. That's a great answer. I mean, especially with people kind of challenge you for takes. It's like you're confident. You're like, hey, I trust what I saw. I trust if I'm writing something. I trust if I'm looking into a guy and analyzing them. We can differ, but I trust what I've been looking at. And I'm not saying that this is the end all be all, but this is just what I saw. And I'm confident in my analysis. I love that, Corbin. That's a great way to start this off. Doc, I don't know how you're going to follow that, but what do you use your New Year's resolution?
All right. Well, for some of you that don't know, I'm really shy. I don't really like branching out of my shell. I only do my home league with my friends. So,
you also have somebody at the door.
I know. I've texted my roommates. There's somebody at the door. But my New Year's resolution is to be confident and join some of these best ball leagues that you and Art are in and blow up the group chat. I feel like an outsider. I want to be cool. I want to join some leagues. So I'm coming. It's my New Year's resolution. I'm confident, and watch out.
You're already missing out. They're flying right by you. Have you even written to Bubba about doing a best ball?
No, I wrote to Justin Mason, and I haven't heard back. I'll write to Bubba right after this show.
You're not even keeping track of stuff on Twitter.
I am. Bubba posted it in December. It's the new year.
No, he literally says if you ever want to be in a best ball, to write to him, and the next best ball draft he does, he will include you.
All right, writing to him right now. KC Bubba in next draft.
So, all right. So we're helping Doc accomplish his New Year's resolution on the show, which doesn't get much better than that. Cheesecake, what's yours?
Well, I'm along the same lines as Doc. I'm joining. I'm in my second best ball right now. I'm hoping to get into at least one or two more, and I'm getting into the TGFBI this year, which is my first year in TGFBI. I think my goal for TGFBI is to win my league and to place in the top 100. So I think that is my New Year's resolution, to place in the top 100 at TGFBI. I haven't decided whether or not I wanted to get into the NFBC this year because I don't really want to spend money. I'm going to say that really softly. But I do want to test myself against the best analysts in the league, and I've been doing that in my best balls. But in a season-long format like the TGFBI, it's a whole different can of worms. And my New Year's resolution is to finish in the top 100 of TGFBI this year.
That's great, and I believe I know I'm in it. I'm pretty sure Doc might be in it potentially. Corbin, I don't know if Corbin potential, but Corbin is in a lot of our Fantrax stuff too, which we do our Fantrax drafts, and I know you've dabbled in a lot of these leagues as well, correct?
Me?
Yeah.
No, I mean, like I said, I haven't been super into fantasy baseball until like
right,
a year or two ago. So like I asked someone that, it's a weird answer, but I didn't even know what TGFBI was, until like probably this year.
That's okay. Yeah.
I don't do NFBC. Just living in Washington State, sports gambling is not legal right now, so like I can't even sign up for anything or get a. It says you're not legal to do league, so I don't do any of those.
Corbin, you're a law-abiding citizen. I like you.
I mean, I guess I could drive down south or up north if I needed to, but it seems like a lot of work to do that.
Agreed. The one I was going to say for mine was that I wanted to leave the first 3 rounds of most of my drafts with 2 pitchers. I really think starting pitching is, and this is not new information, I think starting pitching is really important. I win a lot of the leagues I do when I have 2 pitchers in the first 3 rounds, and I don't do as well when I don't have those aces locked up that stabilize the rest of my staff. I think you can find a lot of good hitters later on, and it's tough if you're in the situation where the big 3 go and you're in the back end of the first round and you decide you want to go hitter, which is great. That means you have to really hit on your pitcher picks later on. And a lot of these, especially best ball drafts, you'll see 4 or 5 pitchers go in the first, 15 picks. And that's tough because if you're missing out on this wave of pitching, imagine if you have the first overall pick and you take Mike Trout or Ronald Acuna, one of those guys, by the time it comes back to you, you're picking the 7th, 8th, or sometimes even the 9th or 10th pitcher off the board. And you're already putting yourself kind of, all right, these guys have to bounce back. A Max Scherzer has to bounce back. I have to hope for these type of guys that if you decide to go Zach Plesac super early, which some people are, like you're banking a lot on these uncertainties and not as much guarantees. And I'm very much in a lot of drafts I do, I want to leave with 2 pitchers in the first 3 rounds. And that's my goal in a lot of the drafts I'll do. And then along with you guys said, like, just being able to be in as many leagues as possible just to make myself a better player. And I'm already in 5 as we talk right now. I'm sure that will potentially even be doubled by the time the season starts. So I'm very much enjoying this process as we've been diving a lot more into fantasy baseball this season than we have in previous seasons, at least the ones that do the show. So great resolutions all around from everybody. Got me pumped up, got me fired up for our last segment of the show, and that's our game of the week.
Welcome to the arena.
And we are in the arena tonight with Mr. Cheesecake, who is running the game. So what are we playing?
We are playing What Happened in 2020. Now, the concept of this game is we have done 5 position previews so far, including today: catcher, first base, second base, shortstop, and third base. And I picked 3 people. I give you groups of 3 and players that are close to each other in ADP in 2020 so far. And I want you to try and guess what their ADP was in 2019 coming into the 2020 season. And if you get within, I say, like 10% of the answer. So if their ADP is 135, if you get within 14 in either direction of the answer, you get the point. So how this is going to work, I have 2 groups of 3 catchers, 2 groups of 3 first basemen, 2 groups of 3 second basemen, shortstops, and third basemen. So we're going to start with how we're going to do is, so I'll start, say Corbin goes first. So you get to pick the position, and then I'll read the 3 players, and you pick the player. And then the next person gets to pick the next player, and the next person gets to try and get the third player. And then we move on to Doc picks the next position, etc. Does everyone get what we're doing?
I'm going to learn on the fly, so let's do this.
I like it. It's a different game. Good job, Cheesecake.
I thought about trying to make it like a horse game, but then I realized I'd have to come up with a ton of questions to get HORSE on 2 guys. And I didn't want to come up with that many questions. So, basically we're trying to figure out who knew what happened in 2020 and how it affected people's ADP. So catcher, first base, second base, shortstop, and third base. I have 2 groups of each. So Corbin, you go first. Which position would you like to start with?
Let's do first base.
Okay, I have Rhys Hoskins, Josh Bell, and Christian Walker. Hoskins is going 170, Bell 183, Walker 186. Which guy would you like to take?
I thought I was choosing the ADP. I'll do.
Oh, you pick. No, that's their ADP now.
Gotcha.
And then so pick which one of those guys, and then you try and guess what their ADP was coming in to 2020.
Oh, okay. I'll go with Rhys Hoskins then.
Okay, so he's at 170 right now. What was Rhys Hoskins' ADP coming in to 2020?
I would say close to maybe pick 100. I'm going to go 105.
Oh, you're so close. He was 121. So if you'd have guessed 109 or between 109 and 133, you'd have gotten the point there. You're really close.
I almost went 120, and I was like, no. He
would have been right on. You would have been right on. Doc, you're next. You got Josh Bell and Christian Walker.
I'll go Josh Bell.
Josh Bell is pick 183 right now. What was his pick coming in to 2020?
I'm going to say 96.
70 was his ADP coming in. Now I got to say, I got this from CBS Roto because Fantasy Pros no longer publishes their old ADPs, the composite. So the best I could do is CBS's Roto, not their head-to-head. So I thought compare apples to apples, Roto to Roto. So in CBS, he was 70. Christian Walker for you, D. Mendy. He's 186 right now. Coming in to 2020, what was his ADP?
What was he now again?
He's 186.
I'm going to say he was 212.
Boom, 236. So you are 24 away. That counts. That is, you get 1 point.
Let's go.
Yeah, D. Mendy has 1 point from the first group of third basemen, 0 for Doc and Corbin right now. We have 1 group of first basemen left, and 2 groups: catcher, second base, shortstop, and third base. Doc, you are next. What position are we going to?
Let's do third base.
Okay, our group right now: Chris Bryant, Gio Urshela, and Josh Donaldson. Bryant's going 137, Urshela 156, Donaldson 190.
I'm going to go Chris Bryant.
All right, Chris Bryant's going 137. Where was he going coming into 2020?
I'm going to say he was at 41.
47.
Ooh,
I think that counts.
there you
Boom.
go.
Eric's got one. David, you have Urshela and Donaldson.
Give me Donaldson.
Donaldson is going 190 right now. Coming into 2020, what was his ADP?
109.
89, just a little bit too far off. Just a little too far off. Gio Urshela for you, Corbin. He's going 156 right now. What was he coming into 2020?
Can't be too farther from that. Let's say 171.
194. I think you're just off. So we have one each for Eric and David. None for Corbin yet, but we still have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 categories left. 2 shortstop, 2 second basemen, 2 catchers, and 1 third base and first base each. So, David, D. Mendy, your choice now. Where are we going?
Let's go shortstop.
Shortstop, Carlos Correa, Jonathan Villar, and Tommy Edman are our 3 shortstop. Correa's going 127, Villar 134, Edman also 134.
Let's go Jonathan Villar.
All right, 134 now. Where was he going coming into the season?
We had a pretty good year, I believe. So he was actually going to be ranked higher. I'm going to say 91st.
54.
Was he that high? Wow.
He was way up. Yeah, because he had 24 home runs, 43 steals in
Gosh,
2019.
I didn't even remember him being that high. Jeez.
Yeah, he was 54th off the board ADP. Corbin, you have Correa and Tommy Edman.
Let's do Correa.
All right, he is 127 right now. Coming into this season, what was his ADP?
83.
87. That's your first points.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's the closest we've had so far. Bam. All right, Doc.
On the money.
You have Tommy Edman. He's going 134. Where was he coming into this season?
Oh yeah, that's y'all left the toughest one for me.
Of course.
I'm gonna go 235.
131. He's going almost exactly the same spot.
Wow.
So we have a tie ball game, 1-1. We still have 2 catchers, 2 second basemen, and 1 shortstop, first base, and third base on the board. Corbin, your choice.
Oh, give me catchers.
All right, catchers it is. We're gonna go with Yadi Molina, Carson Kelly, and Danny Jansen. This is a murderer's row of crap. Okay.
Give me Carson Kelly. Unfortunately, a guy I was totally in on last year.
Carson Kelly currently going at 289 coming into this season. What was his ADP?
I'm gonna say it was about 100 picks earlier, like 171.
187. That gets you the points there. 2-1. Doc, you're next. Yadi Molina or Danny Jansen?
I'm going Yadi Molina.
Yadi's going 280 right now. Where was he going coming into to 2020?
So Carson Kelly, you said was 171 last year.
187, yeah.
Oh, you said 187. I'm going Yadi was 179.
226 coming into this season.
Brutal.
226.
Brutal.
That leaves Danny Jansen for you, D. Mendy. He's going 309 right now. Where was he coming into this season?
286.
Yeah, 264. You get the points there. All right. Boom. We got 2-1. I think Doc is next.
Let's go second base.
Okay, we got Jeff McNeil, who was on our third base preview as well. Max Muncy, who was on our third base preview as well. And Jose Altuve. So McNeil 96, Muncy 97, Altuve 107. Doc, which way are you going?
I'm going to go Altuve, and I'm going to say that he was going 26.
32. I think we give that to you. That's pretty darn close.
Appreciate it.
So we got 2-2-2. D. Mendy. You got McNeil and Muncy.
I'll go McNeil.
All right, he's going 96 right now. Where was he going coming into this season?
David McWhat?
Hey, Neil. I think he was going. Let's go 69.
87. I think that's just a little too far.
Oh,
to
69 fails me.
69 fails you. So you got Max Muncy, Corbin. Where are you going? He was 97 off the board now. Where was he coming into this season?
Doesn't feel like he'd be too far from that. Maybe like 81.
68. That's also just a bit too far. Wow. So we got 2-2, I think. All right.
Well, how many more categories do we have? We might have to cut it a little bit.
Well, we have 5. If you want, we can do one more round each, and if it's tied, we have two tiebreaker rounds.
I like that.
That sound good?
Yeah.
All right. So whose choice is it now?
I believe
D.
it.
Mendy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's me.
So we have one each of all 5. You guys have been very good at picking them in order. So which position would you like?
I just wrote up first base, so I'm gonna go first base.
All right. We have Anthony Rizzo. Oh shoot. I put Max Muncy here too. Son of a gun. I'm a dummy.
Well, it's okay because we'll probably cut this part out anyway.
We'll cut that one. I'll go to a different position.
Let's go back to third base since we were doing the third base preview.
Okay, our third basemen are Brian Anderson, J.D. Davis, and Justin Turner going 209, 214, and 220. Where were they going coming in? Who's your choice?
Let's go Justin Turner.
Going 220 right now. Where was he coming into this season?
157.
140. I think that's close enough. We're going to give that to you, David. Corbin, for you, J.D. Davis or Brian Anderson?
Let's do J.D. Davis.
214 right now. Where was he coming into this season?
I'm going to say like 165.
161. Whoa.
Corbin's heating up.
If we had an award for the guy who got closest the most times, Corbin would have walked away with this one already. Doc, you have Brian Anderson, 209 right now. Where was he going coming into this season?
I'm going to say 181.
225. So right now we have 3-2.
So let's do a one more round with Corbin and myself to determine the victor.
All right,
That's
so
fine.
we're out on that one. We have all right. I'll let Corbin. We got shortstop, second base, and catcher.
Let's do shortstop.
All right, Jorge Polanco, Paul DeYoung, and Didi Gregorius. Polanco's going 204, DeYoung 215, Gregorius 163. Who's your choice?
I'll go DeYoung.
Yeah,
what did you say?
215 right now.
215.
He's going 215. Yeah, where was he going coming into this season?
Might be a little high, but I feel like he was like in the 150s, 155.
195. So a little bit. Yeah, it was a little high. So Polanco or Didi, David?
Oh, it's set up. It's a twin. It's Jorge Polanco for the win. Let's do this.
Going 204 right now. Where was he coming into this season?
He had a lot of more hype going into. I'm going to say he was 129.
Hey. He was going 143. Looks like we have a winner. D. Mendy, the winner of our game. You win. What happened in 2020?
Well, first, I need this. Well, it was a hard-fought effort. You guys don't have to be that loud. Thank you so much. I'm going to give the rest of my FaceTime because I could go for hours. I'm going to give it to Corbin. And Corbin, I do want to thank you so much for coming on tonight. It was really fun being able to break down the third base position with you. And if you want to plug anything or, things you're working on, projects, plug away, my man. Go ahead. It's all you.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. It's been a good time. Like you said earlier, kind of we DM back and forth or, we work together, but it's nice to just chat and, see everybody's faces. And I appreciate it. You guys are good people. And that's something I emphasize in any of the connections I do here, good people. So I like that. Plugin wise, we're pumping out the Fantrax Fantasy Baseball Draft Kit right now. That's kind of been more the emphasis. Doing a lot of deep dives. Might jump into the consensus rankings here, but yeah.
Yeah, he works very hard. Great football and baseball analyst. So you need to make sure you follow him. And where can they follow you on Twitter?
I got a pretty boring Twitter handle, just Corbin_Young21. So.
All right. Well, again, make sure you follow him. Got so much baseball knowledge that he's going to give you. Has great breakdowns of players, releases great articles. Obviously, still going to pump out football content as well if that's more your style. So make sure you connect with Corbin. Great dude. Next week, we're going to be continuing our position previews with Outfielders Part 1 with Mr. Vlad Sedler, a.k.a. Mr. Roto Gut himself. So make sure not to miss that. Until then, everybody stay safe, wear a mask, and have a wonderful weekend. We'll talk to you all soon.